class 8th. This is our English session. Okay, and in this session we will, what will we learn? We will learn our chapter number 7 from this book. Okay, and the book's name is Honeydew. You all know that. Okay, so from Honeydew, chapter number 7 for class 6th. Okay, what is the name of the chapter? Chapter number 7, you have it in your hand. Just have a look. What is the name of the chapter? A visit to Cambridge. Okay, a visit to Cambridge. Okay, and who has written this chapter, or who is the author of this chapter? The author of this lesson is Firdaus Kanga. Okay, who is the author of this chapter? The author of this lesson is Firdaus Kanga. Okay, he says it matters if you just don't give up. What does Firdaus Kanga say? Firdaus Kanga says that it matters if you just don't give up. Chapter number 7. Okay, chapter number 7, Firdaus Kanga, written by Firdaus Kanga, and the name of the chapter is A Visit to Cambridge. Okay, now before we read the chapter, this is a story of a meeting between two extraordinary people. Okay, in this chapter we will see a meeting between two extraordinary people. Both of them are disabled. Disabled means you can say either they were lame or deaf or any kind of disability in their body. Okay, disabled or differently abled, as we now say. Stephen Hawking is one of the greatest scientists of our time. He suffers from a form of paralysis that confines him to a wheelchair. Means here they are talking about Stephen Hawking, and Stephen Hawking was suffering from what? Was suffering from a form of paralysis, and due to that he was confined to wheelchair. Means he was using wheelchair. Okay, and allows him to speak only by punching buttons on a computer. Okay, which speaks for him in a machine-like voice. Means he was paralyzed and he couldn't speak, but he was using a punching buttons to speak. Okay, and for him the computer was speaking. Fine. Then Firdaus Kanga is the writer and journalist who lives and works in Mumbai. Kanga was born with brittle bones. Okay, now what is brittle bones? B-R-I-T-T-L-E, brittle bones, B-R-I-T-T-L-E, brittle. Brittle means hard but easily broken. Means Firdaus Kanga's bones were brittle, which could be easily broken. They tended to break easily. When he was a child, like Hawkins, Kanga moves on the wheelchair, and Firdaus Kanga, the author of this chapter, also moves on wheelchair. Okay, now these two great men exchange thoughts on what it means to live life in a wheelchair. Now both are sharing their experiences, because Stephen was also on the wheelchair and Firdaus was also on a wheelchair. So both were sharing their experiences and their thoughts that what is the life sitting on a wheelchair. Okay, and on how the so-called normal people react to the disabled. And they are further talking about like how do people react when they see the disabled people. What is the reaction of the people? Okay, how do they behave with them? Such kind of thoughts are being shared by both of them. Okay, now, and when did this happen? This happened when Firdaus Kanga went to visit Cambridge. Okay, it was during Firdaus Kanga's visit to Cambridge when they both met each other. Now we are talking about Firdaus Kanga. Firdaus Kanga, let us know something more about him. Like, he was born in 1960. He is an Indian writer and actor who lives in London. He has written a novel, and the name of that novel is Trying to Grow. Okay, it is a semi-autobiographical novel that is set in India, and the travel book Heaven on Wheels. Okay, about his experience in, and the book which we are talking about, Heaven on Wheels, in that he has written his experience in United Kingdom. Okay, now Trying to Grow, the novel, was later turned into FI Films. Okay, and Sixth Happiness, for which Firdaus Kanga wrote the screenplay, and in which he starred also. Starred means he was the hero in that film. Okay. Now, if we talk more about Firdaus Kanga, he was from a Parsi family. He is still alive. He is only 4 feet tall. Okay, and he is a writer also, journalist also, and actor also, as I told you. Fine. Now here you can say that he was the writer of Sixth Happiness, the movie Sixth Happiness. He was the writer of movie Sixth Happiness, and he was the author of the novel Heaven on Wheels. Okay. So this is something about what he wrote and what he is. Okay. There is nothing more given, or nothing more is there to be known about him. Fine. Now let's move to the main chapter and see how the lesson begins and how does we visit Cambridge with Firdaus. Okay, let's see. Now I'm reading the chapter. Pay attention in the book. Cambridge was my metaphor for England, and it was strange that when I left it had become altogether something else, because I had met Stephen Hawking there. Okay, now what is metaphor? Metaphor means a thing regarded as representative or symbolic something else. Okay. It was on a walking tour through Cambridge that the guide mentioned Stephen Hawking, poor man, who is quite disabled now. Though he is a worthy successor to Isaac Newton, whose chair he has at the university, and I started because I had quite forgotten that it was most brilliant and completely paralyzed astrophysicist, the author of A Brief History of Time, one of the biggest best sellers ever lived here. Okay, what is astrophysicist? Astrophysicist means scholar of astrophysics, and in the branch of, you can say, physics dealing with stars and planets. Okay, now what is the author trying to say here? The author begins by telling that the readers at the same point in life, okay, that is in England, only mean Cambridge for him. Means if anybody talks with Firdaus about England, it only meant for him about Cambridge and nothing more. He further remarked that after his meeting with Stephen Hawking, the meaning and the relevance of England had totally changed for him. Okay. The author here also mentions that he happened to be on a walking tour through Cambridge when his guide spoke about Stephen Hawking. But here Firdaus is telling us how did he meet Stephen. Okay, Firdaus is telling us that his guide, because he was paralyzed and walking on a wheelchair, so his wheelchair also, he needed a support to that. So he had a guide with him, and his guide told that Stephen Hawking, okay, spoke about Stephen Hawking and said that a poor man. Why? Because Stephen Hawking was differently abled. Okay, He even told, the guide even told Firdaus, means the author, that Stephen Hawking now hold the position in the university, which was either held by Isaac Newton. Okay, and the author further reveals that before the guide had mentioned, he had forgotten. Firdaus, the author, had forgotten that Stephen Hawking was the most brilliant and completely paralyzed astrophysicist. Though Stephen was paralyzed or disabled, you can say, but he was an astrophysicist, the author of one of the biggest best sellers ever. Okay, the brief of history of time. The book, The Brief History of Time, was written by Stephen Hawking. Okay, I'm reading further. When the walking tour was done, I rushed to a phone. I rushed to a phone booth and most tearing the cord so it could reach me outside. Phoned Stephen Hawking's house. There was his assistant on the line, and I told him I had come in a wheelchair from India. Perhaps he thought I had propelled myself all the way to write about my travels in Britain. I had to see Professor Hawking. Even 10 minutes would do. Half an hour, he said, from 3:30 to 4. Okay, propelled. What is propelled? Drive, or you can say to push something forward. Okay, now here he is talking, Firdaus, the author is talking about his tour. So what is the author telling now? That once the walking tour came to an end, walking tour means he had all round come from India to England. Right? So when that tour was over, the author hurried to the phone booth. And on the phone booth, he went there. Whom did he call? He called Stephen Hawking. Okay. Now, as he was on the wheelchair, but natural, he could not get into the phone booth. He had to stretch the phone till his wheelchair. Okay. He called Stephen Hawking's residence. And when he called, the call was received by Stephen Hawking's assistant. Okay. Stephen Hawking assistant answered the call, and the author introduced himself that I am Firdaus. The author introduced that I am Firdaus Kanga from Mumbai. Okay. The author introduced himself as someone who came all the way from India. Okay. Why did he say that? So, which the assistant must have taken in a literal sense, that Firdaus was disabled and he had come all around from India on a wheelchair, so he must have been taken lots of stress. And Firdaus also told him that he had come from India to write about his traveling experience in Britain. Okay, the author also explained that he needed to meet Professor Hawking. Even if he could meet for some 10 minutes, it would be more okay for him. But the assistant gave him 30 minutes. The assistant told him that he could meet Professor Hawking for 30 minutes, and he also gave him the time, that 3:30 to 4 o'clock for the next day. Okay, and with this, after this, the author began feeling weak at that moment. Now suddenly The author felt weak all over. Here, Firdaus is telling us, the author is telling us, and suddenly I felt weak all over. Growing up disabled, you get fed up with people asking you to be brave, as if you have a courage account on which you are too lazy to draw a check. The only thing that makes you stronger is seeing somebody like you achieving something huge. Then you know how much is possible and you reach out further than you ever thought you could. Okay? So, now what the author, after getting an appointment with Professor Hawkins, he began feeling weak at that moment. He relates that how one is constantly told to be brave and cheerful when you grow up being differently abled. Means when you see some disabled people, what do you start? You start giving them suggestions, or you start showing pity on them, that be brave, God has given you this, what can be done? Such kind of things we start telling them. Right? As if it were that easy for the disabled to be brave. We only speak to them, we only tell them that be brave. But do you think that it is that easy for them to? Further, the author mentions that the people think one who is different is just lazy to draw a check on their courage account. In such a situation, the only thing that gives you courage and strength is when you see same kind of people doing something big. Means here Firdaus is only trying to say that an disabled person, if any person is disabled, how is that person going to get strength? How would that person get courage or strength when the person in the same situation, when they see the person in the same situation doing something big? Okay, and it is only then you know there is, when you see somebody same like you doing something big, at that time there is a hope or possibility which makes you go beyond your limits or imaginations. Means that gives you more courage, that if that disabled person can do something, why can't you? Okay, so here what is Firdaus Kanga trying to say? Firdaus Kanga is only trying to say us that we only sit and give suggestions and show pittiness towards the disabled people. Okay, but we don't think that how can they get courage? What can give them courage? We don't think that. We only keep on sitting and giving them suggestions. Okay, and once the disabled people, when they see the same people like them doing something big, they get the hope and possibility which makes them go beyond their limits and imaginations. Okay, further now the author is getting ready to see Stephen Hawkins. I haven't been brave, said his disembodied body, computer voice. Disembodied computer voice. The next afternoon, I have had no choice. Surely, I wanted to say, living creatively with the reality of his disintegrating body was a choice. But I kept quiet because I felt guilty every time I spoke to him, forcing him to respond. There he was, tapping at the little switch in his hand, trying to find the words on his computer with the only bit of movement left to him, his long pale fingers. Every so often his eyes would shut in frustrated exhaustion. and sitting opposite him, I could feel his anguish, the mind buoyant, and thoughts that came out in frozen phrases and sentences stiff as corpses. Okay, now what is this? Disembodied. Disembodied means separated from the body. Anguish means severe mental or physical pain or suffering, you can say. And buoyant means instantly active or vibrant. Okay, the next morning now. The next morning, when the author went to see Stephen Hawking, Stephen Hawking told him that he hadn't been brave. Okay, means he spoke to his embodied body. Embodied body means the computer. Stephen's was, as we saw in the introduction, that Hawking's was paralyzed and he couldn't speak, but he was using a button through which his computer used to speak for him. Same here also happened. The author says that Stephen Hawking spoke in his embodied computer voice because he had no other option. Okay, now the author wanted to reply that living so creatively, even his disabilities, was a brave choice, but he refrained from doing so. Okay, and so as his guilt took over everything, he pushed Stephen Hawking to respond by talking to him. Okay, he spoke. Who? Stephen Hawking spoke. How did Stephen Hawking speak? By finding the words on the computer. Okay, and Stephen Hawking had a button, okay, a little switch in his hand, okay, with the only remaining movement left in the long fingers. Means Stephen Hawking's full body was paralyzed and the only thing which was working was his two long fingers. Okay, and through that long fingers he was able to use that computer single button through which he can speak and tell what he wants. Okay, he would get easily fatigued and would shut his eyes every now and then in frustration. Means how could Stephen Hawking show his frustration? Stephen Hawking, if he was frustrated, he could only open and shut his eyes. By that it was understood that he is getting frustrated. Okay, now further here author also mentions that he would feel Stephen Hawking's pain as the thought of Stephen Hawking's and the thoughts in his intensely active and vibrant mind came out emotionless and stiff as a corpse. Okay, means both were disabled, Hawking's also and Firdaus also. So here the author is telling that as I was also passing from the same situation, I could understand the feeling of Stephen Hawking. What is he going through? Okay, now further the author expresses is expressing that what do people think about the people with different disabilities. Okay, a lot of people seem to think that disabled people are chronically unhappy. I said, I know that's not true myself. You often laughing inside? After 3 minutes later, he responded, I find it amusing when people patronize me. And you find it annoying when someone like me comes and disturbs you. And do you find it annoying when someone like me comes and disturbs you in your work? The answer flashed, yes. Then he smiled in one-way smile, and I knew without being sentimental or silly that I was looking at one of the most beautiful men in the world. Okay, now what is chronically? People are chronically unhappy means in a persistent or recurring way. Okay, amusing means causing laughter, and patronize means to be kind or helpful to someone. Sentimental means something that is related with your feelings, promoted by feelings. Okay. Now here the author expresses that how most of the people when think that the people who have different abilities means who are disabled. Okay, the people think that disabled people are happy or miserable. But as far as Firdaus and Stephen, when they are talking about it, it is not true. They both were disabled, but they did not agree to this comment that they were unhappy or miserable. Okay. Further, Firdaus Kanga asks Hawking that if it is true for him or was he laughing on the inside. So for this, when this question was asked by Firdaus to Hawkins almost took 3 minutes to respond. Okay, and he finds it entertaining when people are only kind to him because of his disability. Okay, Hawking feels that when people are kind to him because of his disability, it feels him like entertaining. Okay, so the author further asks him that does Hawking feel irritated when people like him come and keep him away from his work? For this, Hawkins replied, yes. And after that, Hawkins gave a smile. Okay, not giving into emotions, but the author knew for sure that he was looking at one of the most beautiful and wonderful men in the world. Means that time when Stephen was laughing means he only gave us one-way smile. So looking at Stephen Hawking, what did author feel? Author felt that Stephen Hawking was one of the most beautiful and wonderful man in the world. Okay. Further, what does the author say? Further, the author says that the first glimpse means the first look which he gave on Stephen Hawking was shocking. Now, the first glimpse of him is shocking. Why? Because he is like a still photograph, as if all those pictures of him in magazine and newspapers have turned three-dimensional. Then you see the head twisted sideways into a slump, the torso shrunk inside the pale blue shirt, the wasted legs. You look at his eyes, which can speak still, and they were saying something huge and urgent. It is hard to tell what, but you are shaken because you have seen something you never thought could be seen. Okay, means here the author is talking about the look of Hawkins. How was he looking? Okay, slump means sit, lean or fall heavily, you can say. Torso means the upper part of the body, and wasted means here weak and emaciated. Okay, now here the author, what is he telling? He here mentions that how the first glance of Hawkins startles you. Startles means surprises you. When you meet Hawkins, you would get surprised. Why? Because Hawkins is motionless. Motionless means he does not move at all. Same as you can say as a photograph. Okay, as you see a picture as a photo, as an image, how is that image? The image is not moving at all, right? Same, when you meet Hawkins, at the first glance you would see him motionless. Okay, here he further says that it seems that all his photos in the magazines, because I told you Stephen Hawking is an astrophysicist, so his pictures were in the magazines also. Okay, magazines and newspapers, they were there, but it was also still same. You would see when you, at first glance, when you meet Hawkins, you would see the same when as you see him in the magazines or newspaper. Okay, as you notice him further he is telling that as you notice him further, his head is turned sideways, means he was paralyzed, so that's why his head is turned sideways. Okay, and the upper part of body is shrunk. Fine. Here he is talking all about Stephen Hawking's first look. Okay, he is also telling that the eyes of, when you see his eyes means Stephen Hawking's eyes appears as if they can speak, but they are still. Okay, they are trying to speak something of great significance. Okay, so having looked at Stephen's totally shaken Firdaus Kanga. Okay, because your eyes have something, so because when you see Stephen Hawking's, you would see something completely unexpected. Such a big name, astrophysicist, okay, and everything. When you know to come something, when you come to know something about a person, and you see that person bedridden, means you are seeing something unexpected. Okay, fine. So this was the condition of the author when he first met Stephen Hawking. Okay, further he is telling that before you, like a lantern whose walls are worn out. Okay, the author here further says that when you look at Stephen Hawking, you would feel that you are looking at the lantern. You are looking at the lantern, okay, whose walls are worn out, and you would see only light inside. In the incandescence of a man, the body, almost irrelevant, exists like a case made of shadow, so that I know, believer in eternal souls, know that this is what each of us is, everything else and accessory. What is incandescence? Incandescence means inner glow or light, and the accessories means something not essential but extra. Okay, but although it is decorative. So here the author is further trying to say that when you see Stephen Hawking, when you see him, it appears like he is like a lantern. Okay, and what type of a lantern? The lantern whose walls are worn out, and you only see the light inside. Further he says that yes, before you is the inner glow of the man. As the lantern gives you light and glow, same, when you see the man on the bed, you would see the inner glow of the man. It makes you feel that the body is irrelevant, that the body is of no use. Okay? And it only exists as a case made of shadow. And it even makes the author a non-believer in eternal soul. Means looking at here totally what is Firdaus Kanga trying to say after meeting Stephen Hawking. After meeting Stephen Hawking, he is only and only telling that what kind of personality was Stephen Hawking. Though he was on the bed, he couldn't even speak. Okay? But the look which he had, by that you can feel the inner glow of a man. One realizes that a man is no more than that. Everyone else is just not essential. Never think that the disabled people are just an accessory, they are not essential. Every person can do something if you give the opportunity. Don't count any person to be weak. Okay? Don't count any person to be weak. Okay, further I am reading it. What do you think is the best thing would about being disabled? I had asked him earlier. I don't think there is anything good about being disabled, I think. I said, do you discover how much kindness there is in the world? Yes, he said. It was a disadvantage of his voice synthesizer, that he could convey no inflection, no shadows or tones, and I could not tell him how enthusiastically he agreed with me. Synthesizer means an electronic musical instrument, you can say. Okay. And inflation means rise and fall of the voice while speaking. Now here the author is telling that according to him asked Stephen. Okay, the author asked Stephen that what according to Stephen was the best thing of being differently able, to which Hawkins replied that he did not find anything good about it. Okay, then the author further expressed that he thinks it makes you discover that there is much kindness in the world. Okay, here the author is telling that being disabled, the best thing according to him was, if you are disabled, you would come to know how much kindness is there in the world. For this, Stephen agreed. He said, yes, that's true. But as I told you that Stephen could not speak, he was speaking through a voice synthesizer. Okay, and due to that voice synthesizer, it was not clear. Okay, the author could not decipher the excitement behind his, due to this up and down of the voice while speaking. Okay, the author could not decipher the excitement behind Stephen Hawking's answer. Okay, now every time what happened, the author shifted his chair. Every time I shifted, I means here we are talking with Firdaus Kanga. Okay, every time I shifted in my chair or turned my wrist to watch the time, I wanted to make every one of our 30 minutes count. I felt a huge relief and exhilaration in the possibilities of my body. How little it mattered then that I would never walk or even stand. I told how he had been an inspiration beyond Klitsch for me, surely for others. Did that thought help him? No, he said, and I thought how foolish I was to ask. When your body is a claustrophobic room and the walls are growing narrower day by day, it doesn't do much good to know that there are people outside smiling and admiring to see you breathing still. Okay, means here further what the author is trying to say. The author is trying to say that the author is after mentioning that he kept on asking different questions to Stephen. Okay, he mentions here that each and every time The author adjusted his chair. Why? So that he could have a look on the watch which he was telling him the time. Okay. Why? Because the 30 minutes of the meeting with Stephen Hawking, the author wanted to utilize that 30 minutes, that each and every single minute of the meeting, he did not want to waste any of the single minute while talking to Stephen. So he kept on looking at the watch. Further, the author also adds that he was relieved and happy that the limited possibilities his body had to offer. Okay, and in that moment, it almost did not matter to the author that he would never be able to walk or even stand for that matter. Okay, now further the author also says that he confessed to him that how he was talking to Stephen Hawking. So he confessed in front of Stephen Hawking, he confessed and said that how Stephen Hawking had inspired him beyond limits, and he was sure that Stephen Hawking must have inspired a lot of other people also. Okay. He asked Stephen Hawking that did this fact made any better for him, made any better for Stephen? He asked him. So what did Stephen say? No, it didn't. On hearing the negative answer, the author felt that he was foolish. He shouldn't have asked such kind of a question to Stephen. Okay? Why? Why did Stephen Hawking reply in negative? Because Stephen Hawking feels that when your body is like a very small and suffocating room whose walls are getting closer and closer day by day, the fact doesn't matter whether the people are happy or whether the people out there are happy that you are allowed does not make a lots of or most of difference for you. Okay, when you know, means here Stephen Hawking is trying to say that when you know that your body is not going to work at all in future also, you are not going to get up from the bed only, you are bedridden throughout your life, then that doesn't matter at all whether the people outside the world, outside your house are happy or no. That doesn't make a much of difference. Okay, so now author further asks Stephen that if he would give a piece of advice to other disabled people. So the author asked Stephen, is there any advice he can give to the disabled people, something that might help to make them life better? They would concentrate on what they are good at. I think things like the disabled Olympics are a waste of time. I know what you mean. I remembered the years I had spent trying to play a Spanish guitar, considerably larger than I was, and how gleefully I had unstringed it one night. The half an hour was up. I think I have annoyed you enough, I said, grinning. Thank you for stay. I waited. Have some tea. I can show you the garden. The garden was as big as a park, but Stephen Hawking covered every inch, rumbling along in his motorized wheelchair. While I dodged to keep out of the way, we couldn't talk very much. The sun made him silent, the letters on his screen disappearing in the glare. Now gleefully means happily. Okay, how happily the author unstringed the guitar. Okay, and rumbling means a continuous deep resonant sound that was happening. So the author here is trying to say that he asked Stephen that does Stephen has any piece of advice for the other different disabled people, so that that people could make their life more easier to live. Okay, for this Stephen said that they should focus on their strength in what good they are. If you are physically disabled, then don't think that you are weak. Try to see what strength, inner strength do you have. What are you good in? In painting, in singing, in drawing, anything. Okay, now according to Stephen, things like Olympics, there are Olympics for different abled people also. Okay, but according to Stephen, the Olympics for different abled people was the waste of time. Okay, for this the author started remembering when he used to play Spanish guitar, because that guitar was much larger than the author's body, and so it was not comfortable for him to sit and play. So what did the author do one night? One night the author unstringed. There are strings on the guitar, you must be knowing. The author unstringed that guitar very happily one night. He remembered one of his incident when he was small. Okay. Now the author had an appointment with Stephen only for 30 minutes. Now when that 30 minutes came to an end, okay, the author smiled and he said to Stephen that I think I have annoyed you enough. Okay, and he continued to thank him for the time. But what did Stephen do? Stephen interrupted him and said him to stay. Okay, then the author waited for Stephen to say something, and Stephen offered author some tea and told him to see the garden. Now Stephen's garden was as big as a park. Okay, Stephen showed him every inch and corner of the garden on the motorized wheelchair. Stephen was also on the wheelchair, I told you before only. Okay, now the author tried not to come in the way of Stephen, because he was also riding on the wheelchair. Okay, now they couldn't now the conversation between author and Stephen became very less. Why? Because the letters now which were written by Stephen disappeared in the light of the sun. Okay, and because of the sun, Stephen was silent. Here you can say because of the sun, Stephen was silent. Because Stephen used to speak through a machine, and whatever he spoke on the machine could be seen on the computer. Now as they had gone in the park, and in the park there was sunlight, so whatever Stephen spoke could not be seen on the computer. So that's why it is been said that the sun made Stephen silent. Okay, now the meeting was only of half an hour, but 1 hour passed. 1 hour later, we were ready to leave. I didn't know what to do. I could not kiss him or cry. I touched his shoulder and wheeled out into a summer evening. I looked back and I knew he was waving, though he wasn't. Watching him, an embodiment of my bravest self, the one I was moving towards, the one I had believed in for so many years alone, I knew that my journey was over for now. Now an hour passed. Okay, now it was time to leave. Okay, but the author did not know what to do as he left, because they both were disabled. They could not even hug each other, not even kiss and say each other bye. Okay, but what did the author do? The author only touched the shoulder of Stephen's and went out in the summer evening. He went to meet him at 3:30, remember? And he already passed there 1 hour. So when he came out after meeting Stephen, it was nearly summer evening. Okay, and he went out into his summer evening on the wheelchair. Now the author knew that Stephen was waving. If Stephen was totally able like us, if his body was working as we do, how would he say goodbye? By waving his hand. Okay, so here the author is only experiencing. You can say here the author is only telling that Stephen was telling him bye bye. Okay, which he wasn't. Okay, now here further the author telling that what he expressed, what he experienced. So he expresses here that how glancing at Stephen was like looking at his bravest himself, means at least here one good thing with the author was that the author was able to speak. Right? Means Stephen was more disabled than him. So one bravest thing, that if being on bed also, if Stephen can do such big things, why can't he? The one he was moving towards and the one he had believed in for so many years. Okay, so here he says that the journey for his England, the journey of his at England is over for now. Only for now the journey is been over. Okay, but he has gained a lot of strength and confidence in himself. Confidence in himself after meeting Stephen Hawkins. Okay, I hope you must have learned something from this chapter. That if disabled people can do something, right? Something great, something big, we have two legs, we can walk, we can run, we can eat, we can use our hands, we can do everything. Right? Means learn something from this chapter, my guys. Read it again and again. Okay, let's move to the word meanings. So our today's word meanings, the first one is propelled. Propelled means drive or push something forward. Okay, propelled means drive or push something forward. Disembodied. Disembodied means separated from the body. Anguish. Anguish means severe mental or physical pain for suffering or suffering. This problem was with Stephen's. Okay, he was paralyzed. Okay, and disembodied means his body was not working, but for speaking or for telling something he was using a button. Okay, which was attached with a computer. Okay, buoyant. Buoyant means intensely active and vibrant. Chronically. Chronically means in a persistent and recurring way. Amusing. Causing laughter and providing entertainment. Patronize means to be kind or helpful to someone. Okay. But how to talk to someone? Talk to someone as if they are inferior. That is called patronize. Sentimental. Prompted by feelings of tenderness or nostalgia. Okay. Slump. S-L-U-M-P. Slump. Slump means sit, lean or fall heavily and limply. Torso. Torso means the upper part of the body, above the waist. Okay. Wasted, W-A-S-T-E-D, is weak and emaciated. Okay. So these are the word meanings for today. I hope you have understood the whole chapter. After my reading also, please read the chapter again and again. Note down the word meanings in your notebook. Worksheets as usual you are going to get related with this. Okay. And hope to meet you all soon. Please complete all your work. Wear the mask. Wash your hands again and again. Take care of your health. Bye.